Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 18th of August. It's 8:52 in the morning. It's going to be hot today. They're projecting 97. Please pray that it would be cooler in my area. I think these prayers are working, by the way, because the August that I could remember in my many years here, it's usually over 100 degrees a lot. So try, please. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to cover an amazingly insane situation in Lebanon. Yesterday, I think in the mid or late afternoon, the electrical grid of Lebanon completely, I'm talking 100% for the whole country, is out. Okay? I have never heard of this before in Lebanon. There's people talking that Lebanon has, power outages intermittently. Not many people. I heard of one person who holds himself out as an expert, but uh, I don't know about that. I never hear about Beirut having power for 3-4 hours a day and going out like Gaza. This is I don't buy that. The airport is out of electricity. Okay, the ports, the piers, the cities, the capital, everything. And we'll discuss the cover story and what could be going on. Next, we're going to talk about Iran and why I think there's an attack that's going to come on Iran from America and our allies, and most likely including Israel. Okay, and we're going to discuss why in detail. Okay, and it's going to be heavily tactical or strategic, and then I'm going to add in some Bible prophecy to support it. Okay, and what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, and what are the implications of that? And just for an update, we heard yesterday from, I would say, a quite reliable source, a Chinese national that lives outside of China, I believe in America, and has connections in China. And there was video footage of a massive amount of tanks in China moving on roads, not on trucks, not on trains, not on airplanes, not with helicopters, on the roads. And by calculating the stream of vehicles and the amount of time it was moving, which was 6 hours, they came up with 1,440 tanks moved. Now, this is probably a reasonably accurate figure. I would say that it probably landed between 12 and 1,600. It's not going to be precise, but it's a tremendous amount of tanks. Okay? And they were moving them to the lower China, south of China, closest to Taiwan, where they have ports. So they're not moving them to, well, they could be moving them over there for ships to go to Iran or something, but I give that on a 10 scale, 10 being the best, I'd give it a 1, or maybe a half of 1. It's for Taiwan. Now, could this be just a ploy to scare America and stuff like that? Yes. Yes. Do I think it's a ploy? Yeah, it could be. But I don't know. Bottom line is, I don't know. It could be real and it could be a ploy. We have not gotten any reports that these tanks are being loaded on ships. It would be a large convoy of ships to move that many tanks to the Taiwan theater. You're not, let's assume you got like probably 4 people in a tank, okay? So you've got, 4 or 5,000 crew. You're probably going to need 4 or 500 mechanics, and you're going to need a massive amount of parts and fuel and all this other stuff. I mean, it's a big thing. So it would be a substantial convoy of ships. But remember this, from that part of China down at the bottom near Taiwan, the south of China, it's a 110-mile trip to Taiwan. Now, that would probably take freighter boats or cargo boats or military transport boats someplace around 5, 6, 7 hours, 8 hours on the outside. Very, very fast. Very fast. Okay? And it would need quite a number of escort vessels, destroyers, missile carriers, corvettes, various warships to, escort such a convoy. Also, since the distance is not crossing the Atlantic, they could quite easily keep, 12 or 15 fighter jets overhead the whole time. Child's play. They could even keep helicopters overhead. And they would probably have at least 2 submarines escorting as well. So it would be a massive event. But remember, they don't have to put them on ships and bring them close to Taiwan as if America was invading France in World War II, It's a fraction of a day to get it there. So they could get up early in the morning and have the tanks there at lunchtime. They could get up at 5 and probably have the tanks there at lunchtime. Okay? Now, loading the tanks onto the ships with the parts, the crews, that's another story. Loading that many tanks on ships is likely going to take a couple of days. It's not, like, you have ferry boats and you just drive the cars on the ferry boats and they cross over. Well, it could be that way. It could be that way where they just drive the tanks on and they have different levels in the boat and, yeah, it could be. And that wouldn't take long at all. That might just take them to load that many, maybe 8 hours or 4 hours. I don't know. So the next thing to look for is if they're going to load these tanks onto the ships, or are they just going to leave the tanks parked by the pier? So even with the logistics of loading everything onto the boats and moving them over there, they probably could be from China, starting the loading process, to being in the theater in Taiwan, I would say in 16 hours, 14 hours, 12 hours, something like that. It wouldn't be long. And an attack on Taiwan before they bring the tanks in would probably take quite a few hours, because Taiwan has anti-ship missiles, surface-to-surface missiles, pretty decent aircraft, bunkers. They're not a soft target. China could overwhelm them, but there's many Navy vessels in the region. There's aircraft carriers, those troop transports which carry vertical takeoff planes and helicopters and a good amount of troops. There's destroyers, submarines. There's a lot of stuff there. Probably, it could depend on the day, but there's probably between, I would say, 12 and 24 boats and Navy vessels from America and other countries to a very small extent as well, plus a lot of aircraft over there. So it's not a cakewalk. Okay? China would have to prepare probably a massive mobilization to knock off Taiwan. They might try to bluff America down and see if America does nothing. But you would also see, I'm most confident, an attack on North Korea from South Korea. And America has a large base in South Korea. Before this thing heated up, had 28,000 soldiers, and I would expect now at least, I would say 40,000 soldiers, 35,000, something like that. It's substantial. And the North Koreans, about 2 weeks ago, assembled 250 substantial missiles on the border with North Korea. So they just push the launch button and hope they get them off before South Korea blows the missiles up. Okay? Now, could they do a simultaneous launch of 250 missiles? It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. And they would probably try to rain a lot of them at the border so they could move in. So North Korea would, want to push in with mobile artillery and tanks and missile support, artillery support, whatever they can muster for air support, which would be precious little, unless China helps them. And Japan would at some point enter into the fight, and it would be a wild ride over there. Okay, Australia can't do much. They could send 1, 2 ships, 3 ships, not much. They're not relevant to anything except getting China mad at them and wanting to attack them too. China would probably love to get the land of Australia and occupy it, in their dreams. New Zealand, I don't think, would come up with anything. The Philippines would just be hanging on for dear life. And Guam is probably a second-tier target. It wouldn't be immediate. And it would be a wild ride out there. So remember, it could mean that China moved the tanks there because someday they intend to attack Taiwan and they want to be ready. They might be thinking there's going to be a golden opportunity coming, and we'll talk about that. And that's why the tanks will move down there, but they're not going to be deployed right now. And Russia is getting mad at Ukraine and saying they want to go in and conquer Ukraine. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the live stream and make sure that we have sound and picture, which is, I'd say, important. And make sure we do have sound and picture. Okay, let me see. Now, if anyone wants to put questions up in the chat, as long as it's relevant to the subject matter we're talking about, I'll try to answer them. Now, remember, I've lived in Israel for many years, and I'm here. Okay, I'm in the Galilee. And you're going to get a perspective from me that it's most unlikely you're going to get from somebody that hasn't lived in Israel for a number of years. Now, there's a lot of people out there that do not live in Israel that have traveled back and forth from Israel many times, and they're going to give you perspectives, and they're going to be close, okay? But they're not going to quite hit it. I don't think you could, unless you've lived here for quite a while, and you've been through a number of wars, and you understand how the Middle East works. I don't see much coming out of the Biden administration that shows me they really understand it. Netanyahu understands it, but he's got hidden agendas. All right, so you're gonna get stuff. Now, I do emergency updates as live streams, so if you want to hear what happens before you're going to pick it up around the world, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so when I come on, when the eggs hit the fan, you'll get emergency, you'll see red alert, heads up, and you'll get notified of it, okay? And I appreciate it if you hit the like button. So, let me see if I have any questions in here right now. Japan and US would be the foremost actors. With South Korea, yeah. Also Taiwan. It's the whole mess over there, really. Say we smoke symbiotes. That's a nonsense comment. I'm going to just remove it. It's just noise. Okay, I'm going to put a couple of fast posts up in the chat. Don't go away. We're going to get into this. And I'm not going to take a very long time. And it gives people a chance to come in. So, I'm going as quick as I can. Almost done, guys. So I'm putting my email address up. If you want to send in a prayer request or ask a question more confidentially than posting it in the chat, you can email it to me, and I check the email during the broadcast as well. We do pretty good with our prayer requests, by the way. A lot of times people just write in and say, pray for this person. Well, that's pretty hard to do. What are we praying for? So, give us some specifics and give us just the initials of the person. So it keeps them more confidential. Okay. Being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise now. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So I am an Old and New Testament believer, obviously. I live in Israel. And if you're wondering, I'm a Levite, and I'm also a descendant of Aaron, which makes me a Cohen or a priest. Okay, I'm spirit-filled, Old New Testament believer, living in Israel, giving you the news. Deal with that if you want, okay? What's important about this thing with Russia and Ukraine? A lot. A lot. Russia's latest plans appear to be he wishes to push into Ukraine and take the whole place over. So apparently he's not planning on attacking Poland, which is the transfer point for weapons into Ukraine, because let's call it direct. He's afraid of NATO. Let's not kid ourselves. He's scared to death of NATO. Okay? So he is thinking if he takes over Ukraine, Poland has no place to transfer weapons to. NATO can't bring any more weapons in, and that's his best bet. It's a reasonably decent strategic or tactical analysis of what to do next. The risk he has, which is profound, is the whole European Union, not just NATO, and America are scared that he does that. He creates a tremendously huge buffer zone protecting Russia. Ukraine is quite long. I don't know what it is, probably 1,500 miles or something like that. It's quite long. And he keeps troops in there for perpetuity. And then he could use that to strike out against NATO. Okay? Now, can Putin do this? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? It depends on what NATO does. If NATO just sits back and keeps bringing weapons into Ukraine for as long as they can and hope Putin doesn't blow them up when they get into Ukraine, it will drag it out, but I think overall Putin will finish it off. But Putin will be endangering the security of Mother Russia homeland to do it. He keeps his good soldiers and resources in Russia to defend against NATO. He's going to have to dislodge a good bit of these resources and move them into Ukraine, where previously he was putting second and third tier soldiers into Ukraine, new draftees, and people that he didn't value as troops. He's going to have to deploy his good missiles, his good tanks, his good armored personnel carriers, his good jets, and he's going to have to probably use his ships to some extent anyway. I don't know to what great extent in the Black Sea. Now, if Russia prevails against Ukraine, what would be a time frame? We don't know. It could be 10 days. It could be 3 months. I don't know. It's going to depend, it'll depend on how much Putin throws in it. And honestly, I don't think today Putin knows how much he's prepared to throw in it. I don't know. I don't think Putin knows. He's going to play it by ear. He has to. And I don't think NATO really knows how much they're going to do to stop it. One thing that'll stop it cold dead in its tracks is for NATO to put, 50,000 soldiers or 80,000 soldiers with equipment into Ukraine. That will halt it. And that is essentially the same thing as declaring war on Russia. And I don't know if basically NATO has the guts to do that. Now, I need to add to this a couple of things that you need to understand. BRICS is about ready to start using their money transfer system. This replaces SWIFT. Now, you got to get this in your head. If you don't get what I'm telling you, you're missing a huge factor here. SWIFT uses the internet cable. SWIFT is, in brief, what banks use to transfer money internationally around the world. It could also work within America too. But usually they use EFT, electronic funds transfers, inside America. But the SWIFT system is what's used internationally as a very dominant force. There's IBAN, which is another one that's really, I think, mostly for Europe. But the SWIFT uses the internet cables, and I'm quite certain IBAN does. Some months ago, our friends in Yemen, the Houthis, cut 4 such cables, or blew them up, I think it was near Sudan, and caused a lot of major internet outages that affected Asia and parts of Africa and stuff like that. The people in Europe and America really weren't impacted or didn't really know much about it, but it did happen. There's, I think, 14 cables that run right by Yemen. They run right by the south of Yemen and up by the western shore on the Red Sea. Internet cables are not laid very deep. They don't drop them 3,000 feet down, Okay, that would be most unusual, I think. I think at points where they cross the ocean, maybe they have to go deep. I don't know how deep, but usually they try to keep them near shore so it's not that deep. So the cables in the Red Sea are close to the shores, and they're probably no more than 200 or 300 feet deep. Or it may be less. Okay? And the Houthis have threatened to cut them and blow them up. Now, the powers in BRICS, China, Russia, Iran, and others, don't like American sanctions. Why would they? So they want their own money system so they don't have to be harassed by America and her sanctions. Okay? So months ago, China, moved their assets, bonds, and other things out of the hands of the banks because they're afraid their money will get grabbed. Putin lost billions from sanction attachments in banks. This thing, I'm understanding, is ready to go any minute now or any day. And 159 nations have expressed an interest in participating in this money transfer system with BRICS. The United States has harassed the world for 30, 35 years with banking. They have driven the countries crazy. They have fined the banks for money laundering. What the heck is money laundering? In the old days, what would happen is you walked up to the bank. I'm talking the old days, the 70s, even into the 80s, the mid 80s or late 80s even. You went to the bank and you walked in and you had a satchel and you had, $37,000. They would count it out and they'd give you a receipt and deposit it in your bank, and that was the end of it. Did they ever ask you for source of funds or anything? No, they didn't even know what that was. They didn't care. That's how the world was supposed to operate. Okay? Then America came up with this lunacy, and then when Obama was president, he destroyed the offshore banks. He didn't want people banking offshore because he didn't know how much money they had. Yeah, there was some tax issues as well, but it was just, a stupid thing he did. And he caused tremendous hatred against America from, it looks like, 159 countries that want to get out from under him. Okay? America behaves stupidly. Let's not kid ourselves. So this banking thing irritated everybody, and drove people crazy. And banks are fearful because if they make a mistake and break the laws and the rules that America imposes through SWIFT, they can get fined $10 million, $100 million, or whatever. It's so stupid. Did it ever stop the drug problem? The fentanyl epidemic all of a sudden went away because they cracked down on offshore banking. You see, it has no value. It stopped terrorist funding? How? Show me an example. It doesn't do any good. It's harassment from Satan. That's all it is, making people's lives miserable. So they want to run away. And these are not countries that want to pick up guns and bombs and destroy America. They just don't want to be told what to do by America. In Jeremiah 50:51, it describes America, of course, which is the daughter of Babylon, as having a great voice and the hammer of the whole earth. They don't want to be hammered anymore by this. They're sick of it. And what does America do but keeps increasing it? And if you don't play ball with their sanctions, they sanction you. America puts sanctions on Israeli citizens. that are fighting against the Palestinians in the West Bank, that are their enemies. They put sanctions on America, on Israeli political people. They're out of control. Who put them in charge? Satan. You think God put them in charge? Do you think it's a godly country? But anyway, moving along. So now they're running to BRICS, which has Iran in there, and Russia in there, and China in there, and, you know, what's that going to do? Well, I tell you in a nutshell, it's going to cripple America financially. See, what America did in 1913 is they created a Federal Reserve System, which manufactures money out of thin air and charges interest for it. The interest goes to the owners of the Federal Reserve System, which are not allowed to know who they are. And these people do not pay any tax on the income they receive from the Federal Reserve System. So the Federal Reserve System is privately owned. You can check this in Google, and you're not allowed to know who owns it, and they don't have to pay taxes. So they're making trillions of dollars, whoever these people are, every year for doing nothing. They don't have any assets, okay? You know, and that's why you see things like this going on. Bugatti just recently released a sports car that sells for about $4.5 million. People spend that on cars. There's many cars that cost more than $500,000 today. Lots of people buy them, but not the believers, because you're the enemy of Satan. Okay. So Satan today is still the God of this age. So there's a rift in the spiritual world. And you see this explained in Revelation 17 and 18. The whore, which the last verse in Revelation 17 is that great city, which is Washington, D.C., Columbia, District of Columbia. When you look at, I'm not going to go through all this, but I've done it many times. When you look at the Columbia Motion Pictures icon, you see a woman, well, we think it's a woman, wearing some kind of long robe, having no breasts, but looking like a woman in the head. Okay, you got to wonder what they're up to there, don't you? Holding a torch up in the air on a pedestal. Come to the light. And that's the Statue of Liberty, and that's the same statue on the top of the Capitol building. That's Columbia. The District of Columbia is not in the United States. It's not in the 50 states. It's a city administered by the federal government. Okay? They elect a mayor, and they have a city council or something, or a legislature that can pass the laws, but every law has to be approved by the federal Congress, and they have the power to just veto the law. So they have no independence to speak of. I suppose if they want to put a no parking sign up, nobody gives a hoot, you know, or if they want to make an ordinance that a restaurant has to have 3 fire extinguishers, not 2, I don't think anybody cares in the Congress. But if they start doing anything significant, now they can veto it, and they do it periodically. Now they can't go to New York City and veto laws that the city passed, or Los Angeles or anything like that, just the District of Columbia. So the District of Columbia, named after this mythological whatever that is, you know, a woman without breasts, apparently. Is it really a woman? I don't know. Is portrayed, you know, as running the country. And then it says in Jeremiah 50:51, they're mad upon their idols. I'm not going to go through all this. I've done it probably 8 or 10 times in my other videos. You can go through my videos in the live section. The Supreme Court building is built just like a Roman and Greek temple. The Statue of Liberty has the same architecture. the New York Stock Exchange has the same thing. It's a temple. They worship the devil in there. In all these places, they're temples. The White House is the same thing. It's the pillars. It's Greek and Roman temples. But I've done this so many times, I'm not going to put my regular people through it again. You can go through my live section. So, the beast destroys the whore, burns her, and eats her. That's what it says in Revelation 17, eats her flesh. So the beast, the whore system is falling apart. Okay? The whore system is Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. can no longer hold it together. China doesn't listen, North Korea doesn't listen, Cuba doesn't listen, Venezuela doesn't listen, Iran doesn't listen, Russia doesn't listen, and other countries don't listen. They've lost the control. So nations are rising up against America, which is going to be used to destroy America. Now, you need to hear this. This is very unpleasant for many of you that live in America that don't understand Bible prophecy. The Air Force Base in Lackland, Texas, I believe yesterday, or it could have been the day before, because we got a different time frame here in Israel. It was hit twice. What does hit mean? Well, a group of males apparently came with guns of an undisclosed nature, whether pistols or assault rifles or shotguns or machine guns. And they're not talking. And attacked the security guards at the gate of this Lackland Air Force Base, which is a training base and apparently used for other facilities. It has on the base 24,000 soldiers and 10,000 civilians. So is this a little base of 300 or 400 people? No. It is an extremely substantial military base. And it probably has a lot of aircraft. So these characters who were never caught and never killed, I don't know if they were wounded, they were never caught, came to the security guards at the gate and began a gunfight with them, started shooting at them. Security guards returned fire and repelled the attack. Okay? That was at 2:15 a.m. So it was probably about 36 hours ago or something like that. And then what happened? At 4:30 in the morning, like about 2 hours later approximately, they came back with a car and began shooting at the guards at the same gate again, and then got away. So let's break this down. I have a law enforcement background when I was younger, okay? And what happened? Well, they come and they start a gunfight. Apparently they didn't come on horses or donkeys, they came in a vehicle, but they may have parked the vehicle, 100, 200 feet away so it didn't take gunfire or something like that. They engaged them with gunfire for a time period we're not being told. They're not talking about any security guards getting wounded or killed, but they probably wouldn't if such a thing happened. Then they went and got in their car and took off. Now, normally what you see guarding military bases is a small amount of guards that normally would just be carrying a pistol, a 9mm pistol, whatever the latest pistol the American military is using. That's it. Okay? Now, might they have assault weapons? Now they might, but I don't think normally they do. And how many would there be in the middle of the night at a gate at a place like that? Oh, I don't know, maybe 2, 4. Do I think they put 12 there? No. 6 max. What do? Well, they're checking the people going in and out of the base, who they are, what they're there for, that type of thing. Okay? It's basically entrance and exit control. And they also keep people patrolling around there. I used to have a friend that was in the Department of Defense Police. He was an officer, and he ran a base, and well, there was a guy over him, but he was under the captain. And they, on a base like this, I would say you probably have 2 to 4 gates. At each gate, they probably keep 4 or 6 people. Okay, I don't think more than that. And they probably have 2 or 3 vehicles that drive around the base. And what are they looking for? They're looking for fights, rapes, auto accidents, theft. Somebody falls down and gets hurt, just an accident. Looking to see if they see smoke for a fire or something like that, although they have fire alarms. Water main breakage. What else would they look for? A car on fire. Somebody trying to climb the fence or break in. It's very loose security. And the 24,000 soldiers are not bearing arms. The ones that live on the base are not allowed to bring weapons onto the base. So if you own a nice pistol, you can't bring it onto the base with you. Could you lock it in your car? I don't know. It would probably depend on the base commander and the rules, and I have no idea. My guess is probably not. If you live off base, could you keep weapons in your apartment off base? Oh yeah, they would. That you could do. Just don't bring them on the base. So they're a sitting duck. All the bases are this way. Now, they might have some really secure facilities where they got more guards, but this would be the great exception, not the rule. So how did these people, from my law enforcement days, I'm going to break this down for you. It's rather scary. Brace yourself, okay? They started gunfire, a firefight with the military police or Department of Defense police, whichever they had. They might have both there. And exchanged a gunfire, and they initiated the gunfire. There was no criminality being interrupted by the police or anything like that. They weren't trying to rob something, okay? Then they got away. Now, what the military police have is they have, well, maybe not the military police, but the Department of Defense police have a mutual protection pact or contract with the local police and the state police. So what does that mean? That means that if they get into trouble, they can call the local police, the sheriff, the police, the highway patrol, the state troopers, the state whatever, right? And they can ask them for help. Now, the state police and the city police can also call them and ask for help, but don't be so sure that that help's going to be coming, because you're probably going to get back, we can't abandon our post, and it's a one-way street. But these police departments are getting all kinds of federal aid and funding from the Fed, so they put up with that. Okay, now they might come. I mean, if they have enough of them, they might come. Military police, if there was a crazy emergency, like there was thousands of rioters, and they might actually try to help. If they felt the base would eventually be threatened, they might actually help. But normally it's a one-way street. You help them and they don't help you. Okay. Why did the military police or Department of Defense police not give chase Normally their authority stops at the facility. Okay, now the Department of Defense police are police officers anywhere in the United States, but there's not a whole lot of them. Military police, or even Department of Defense police, are not going to jump into their Jeeps, turn the blue light on, and give chase. Why? They're going out of their area, they're leaving the base less protected. They don't know the streets in the cities, towns, and villages nearby. They don't know the tactics of the police. They would probably not have a radio network with the police. They'd have to call their own dispatch to contact them, and they might not be able to patch through. And they're just not equipped. They don't know how to behave in the city. They're not going to give chase. Believe me. They might give chase for a quarter of a mile. That'd be about it. Once they got away from the base. Now, if there's streets that run alongside the base for a mile or two, they probably would give chase that far. In other words, they would operate right outside the walls of the base, but then they would stop. Okay? So, did they give word to the local police that, a red Chevelle with license plate beginning with CYQ, partial plate with 4 or 5 males, was engaged in a gunfight with us and they were headed south on this road? Yeah, they would have. Would the county sheriff and the local police and the highway patrol all be rapidly notified about this with descriptions? Oh gosh, yes. It's 2:15 in the morning the first time. Dark. How much traffic do you think there is on the roads in Lackland, Texas at 2:15 in the morning? Not a lot. Minimum. I patrol during the night. It's rather pleasant. You don't have a lot going on. You get prowler calls, peeping Tom calls, burglary calls. You could catch an accident. Robberies, in progress, like an armed robbery of a store or a bank, they're all closed. Who's getting robbed? Government buildings are closed. You're not getting disturbances and protests over there. If there's car thieves running around, it's probably not going to get reported because people are sleeping. Home invasions are very rare. That could happen, but it's a very obscure, prospect. Rapes, who's out at night, You don't have much. You drive around, you're looking for drunks, you're looking for completely people driving on an unusual fashion, and you're looking for burglars. So you're going to drive by warehouses, commercial properties. If time allows, you go around the back, take your light. A lot of squad cars have a light by the rearview mirror, by the outside rearview mirror, where you have a flashlight, and you look for an open door or a broken window, stuff like this. Because burglars get active in commercial properties during the night because there's nobody there. Then you got to pay attention to the businesses that are open during the night. Gas stations, 7-Elevens. If it's maybe the bars close at 4, you got to watch those. So when you're driving by, you train yourself to keep your eyes on the side, looking at the 7-Elevens to see if it's an unusual situation. You got to keep your eye on maybe ATM machines, stuff like that. Okay, it's pretty peaceful, and you could run your patrol car at great speeds at night. You can putz around it. In the city you can go 60 or whatever you want to do. There's nothing going on out there. Some guys like it. They come off shift, they go home, and they will get home right about when the kids are going to school, so they can kiss the kids, say hello. Then they'll grab a meal and they go to sleep. Nobody's home. The wife's busy, she's out, she's working, she's shopping, whatever. The kids are gone, and he goes to sleep. The kids come home, wakes up, that kind of thing. They like it. I don't know. It's working in the night is rather pleasant. I used to work on a shift that came off at 3 in the morning. I really loved that. Because you get home, it'd be dark, and you could go to sleep, and then you'd wake up 11, 12, 1, whatever the heck it was, and you'd go in, in the evening. So I used to like that, Anyway, they didn't get picked up. This is highly unusual because there's no traffic. It would not be hard for the locals to find this guy. They keep plenty of vehicles out on the street at night to catch people like this. Okay? And if they had, like a supercar, like, a 700 horsepower Corvette, it goes tearing through the community at 140 miles an hour. The few people that would be out, you would see trucks moving during the night. They'd be phoning it in like crazy. There's a lunatic running around here. So that didn't happen. Now, I've carried this story many times. China has up to 350,000 acres of land that they bought, that their cover story is they're using it for agriculture. They bought this land, and much of this land is adjacent, next to American military bases. And that's where your sleeper agents are. So, maybe one of the locals launched a helicopter to look for this car. That would not be abnormal. It would take some time, because the helicopter may not have been on, they got to wake the guy up, he's got to jump into uniform, race down to the helicopter pad, jump in and start looking at it. It could be 45 minutes, so maybe that was too late. Probably that was the case. Okay, so would the MPs have had access to a military helicopter when looking for them? Nah, probably not. Probably not. MPs running around helicopters patrolling is not a typical situation at all. I doubt they had that. All right, so could they have launched a drone? Maybe next week they would, but I don't think they had that capability normally. What happened to these guys? Why didn't they get caught? Because they went to Chinese-owned land next to the base, and they drove into a barn, okay? Or a building, or a garage. And now they couldn't be found. As ex-law enforcement, I'm telling you, this is the most likely scenario. I mean, we could get into like Hollywood television shows and we could say, oh, they had a tractor trailer truck parked someplace conveniently, and they had a ramp, and they opened the doors of the 40-foot trailer or the 26-foot trailer, and they pulled the ramp out, and they drove the car in the ramp, and they said, nah. That would be too time-consuming, too dangerous, and could be spotted. I doubt they did that. They drove onto the property right away when they left, and they went into a building with the vehicle. And then I don't know what they did. Did they have a few beers my thinking is probably they did. They could have been Chinese guys. They could have been from another country. They may not have been devout Muslims, or they might have been. Muslims generally don't drink, but, you know, who knows? So they could have went, had a few beers celebrating this and say, hey, you know what? Let's go back and do it again. Now, so they took the car, which apparently is the same car, drove back to the base, shot at the guards again from the car, escaped, and were not apprehended a second time at about 4:30 in the morning. There's really not going to be a lot of traffic at 4:30 in the morning. So in a period of approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes, the same lunatics did 2 attacks on the same base at the same gate and got away both times. Okay? I don't know what this is. I don't know who it is. I'm not going to pay attention. Okay, so 2 times in 2 hours and 15 minutes and got away twice. First of all, what do we learn from this? That the bases are poorly defended, and these guards are not highly trained. These are low-level MPs. They know how to shoot a gun. Well, they didn't kill or injure or wound or stop the car, so how good could they be at shooting? Ask yourself that question. Did they have assault weapons? Well, the chances are if they did, they would have dropped some of the hostages or at least blew the car up or disabled it. That didn't happen. They probably took cover and were sitting there, you know, going like this and jerking the gun and stuff like that. The terrorists didn't, we don't know if they wounded or killed any of these guys because the military wouldn't tell you. The generals and the colonels that run the joint were sleeping. They probably woke them up the first time and told them, and they said, what happened? Well, they left. Okay, you reported it to local police? Yeah. Okay, tomorrow at, 0800, we're going to have a staff meeting and discuss it, right? And he goes back to sleep. That would be a normal scenario. The base wasn't invaded or set on fire or anything like that. Okay. And then it happens the second time. The same night. And they got away twice. Rest assured, these are the sleeper agents. It's starting, and they're probing the bases. And the result of their probe told them unequivocally that the Americans are schmucks supreme, idiots to the nth degree, for leaving their bases so poorly dealt with. What America needs to do, if you have a base like that, 24,000 and 10,000 civilians, I would say on a given shift, you probably have no more than 12 or 15 military police or Department of Defense police on the base active. That is probably going to need to go up to about 45. And they're going to have to deploy armored Humvees with 30 or 50 caliber machine guns. And they would do well to put crews on, at least 5 or 6 tanks that are positioned strategically around the base. And they would do well to construct watchtowers that go up 25, 35, 40 feet with 50 caliber machine guns, night optics, and so forth, and have those armed. Will America do this? I seriously doubt it. What will they do? Double the amount of MPs? That's it. they're not going to want to show this level of fear. America has a bad habit of doing the wrong thing. But you need to understand that this is not a bunch of schlep gangbangers or idiots, because they did it twice and got away with it twice. Could they have done the same thing with a rocket-propelled grenade or an anti-tank missile and blew the security guards to smithereens? Absolutely. Then what? Well, then thousands of their friends, other sleeper agents with assault weapons, could have just stormed in and started killing everybody because they're not armed. Governments do gun control out of fear of being killed and overthrown because they're Satan bots, and the amount of secrets they're covering up is massive, and they're paranoid like crazy. There is no good reason for gun control, okay? None. Okay? It doesn't exist. An armed society is a polite society, and that's the long and the short and the tall of it. Okay? There's no excuse for it except the paranoia of the rulers. That's it. That's it. Now, you look at the harsh gun control states in America, and they always have the highest crime rate. And they never stop doing it. They keep pushing more and more gun control because they're scared. They're so stupid, they enforce gun control on their military bases. If they told everybody to get issued an assault weapon with maybe 100 rounds of ammo and carry it around on the base like they were at war, which they are, would that help? Yeah. It would probably stop the sleeper agents from having an easy time attacking the base. They would, now, when they do it, they're going to use missiles, probably an immature kind, like Katyushas, just lots of them. Because the land is next to the bases, and Katyushas go 8 to 12 miles. It'll do it. You know what they do to Israel with them. They launch hundreds of them. You can build missile launches for Katyushas out of like beer can metal. You know, there's nothing to them. It's a platform like this with a ramp made out of cheap junk metal. That's it. And Katyushas, they build them in tunnels for years in Hamas and Hezbollah. You think they can't build them on this land that China has, where they could have electricity and buildings and machine shops? Come on. They're going to blow the American military bases up. You've already been invaded. Trump said there's 20 million illegals in the country. That's Trump, okay? The lowest figure I hear is 12 million. Let's go with the 12 million. 70% are sleeper agents. I've seen the videos. Military-age males, single. 70%. You got anywhere from 7, 8, 9 million of these characters running around inside the United States. Some have filed for asylum. Probably some haven't. They don't know where they are. You've already been invaded. Now we got to tie this to Iran, Russia, and China, and really North Korea. Let me take a look at the chat and see if I got questions or we got people cursing us that need to get blocked or something like that. Let's see. I won't be a monk here. Let's see. How was fighting the Nazis? Okay, block. These people are just here to harass. I think we're okay. Okay. Fox News in the last few hours had some guy on there. He was a former, I think, an ambassador or something. And I put it up on my Telegram site. If you wanted access to my Telegram site, send me an email and just write Telegram in the subject header. You don't have to say anything else. And it has a lot of information. It's completely uncensored. It's free. The app is free. It's called Telegram Messenger. You need the app. And just my email's up at the top of the chat. It's at the bottom of the description box under the video. Just send me an email and say Telegram, and I'll send you the invite link, okay? I have several Telegram channels, but I'll give you the one for the news from Israel, mostly Israel news, but it covers the other countries too. Now, the sleeper agents would probably be run by China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and other countries, Muslims, Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and the others. The Iranian-backed militias are there. Okay? What they did by probing the base in Lackland was stupid and smart at the same time. They wanted to see what happened. And it might have also been not a probe, also a warning. Iran could have been warning America. Russia could be warning America. China could be warning America. Okay? Right now, Russia's tied up with Ukraine and cannot help Iran. Iran is postponing their attack on Israel. They're scared. Now, there's some people that do a good job of reporting the news. They preach the churchianity of the gospel with the crazy doctrines of prophecy. And some of them are carrying the story that floated around that America has sent 30% of her Navy to the Middle East. Now, these people, I don't think, intentionally put out fake news. I think what they did is they didn't fact check. And that can be a mistake when you're tired and you run down and you're trying to follow all the news. And it doesn't mean they were trying to mislead the people. They made a mistake. The American Navy, counting everything, has 475 ships. There might be 25 or so or ships in the Middle East theater now, maybe 30 even, but I don't think it's even 30, maybe 30. Okay, they're under 10%. Okay, they're probably closer to 5% in the Navy. Okay, so it's not that substantial of a force. Okay, it really isn't. But it's enough for Iran. And there's a lot of aircraft. This is a very good time to attack Iran. Now, we need to talk about Lebanon. Yesterday, Lebanon's electricity went out 100%. The whole country has no electricity. They said they didn't have money to buy fuel, or they ran out of fuel, and they're not going to have fuel until August 23rd. As far as I know, there was no announcement beforehand that they would have to cease electricity on a given date, which would be normal, don't you think? The government of Lebanon hates Hezbollah. They're fearful that Hezbollah is going to cause the destruction of Lebanon, which is probably will happen. Israel has talked about putting Lebanon in the Dark Ages, and we've heard the head of the Department of Defense talk about taking out their electrical grid. Now, we hear a lot about Hezbollah missiles and rockets. I don't think they have anywhere near the offensive and defensive capabilities that the media makes them out to have. They're liars and they're bluffers. And I don't think Hezbollah has much serious missiles at all. Iran was desperately trying to bring missiles into Lebanon by going to Iraq, then Syria, and into Lebanon, and we were blowing the transfers up inside Syria and in Lebanon, right near Syria. And it seemed to stop because Iran couldn't accomplish it. I think we blew them up 4 or 5 times. So if Hezbollah had all this fancy stuff, why was Iran trying hard to get more in? You see, you have to look at the facts, the actions. If you listen to the words of these political leaders, they're all liars, every single one of them. You're just going to get lies and deception. If you look at what they say, file it away, and then look at their actions, you can have a good chance of putting the pieces together. Okay? So, Hezbollah has so far not done any serious attacks to us. You read the Muslim media, though, they've disabled the military, we're falling apart. That's not true at all. They mostly attack up at the border, and I would say 95% of the people that live by the border have been evacuated. Yeah, they can do property damage. They can cause a field to come to cause a missile can cause fire in the field and all this stuff. Sure, that's about it. Now, for months now, every day, Israel has been whittling them down, hitting missile and ammo depots, command centers, installations. Hezbollah has anything and everything. Every single day, we're attacking. But we're not attacking, 45 sites a day. We're not getting it pushed to the point where they're going to say we're fighting for our lives right now. We're boiling the frog in the water, so to speak, to use a horrible example, okay? And we're just taking them down little by little every day. Every day. Plus assassinations of various commanders as well, every day. Many, many of the people that lived in the south of Lebanon have moved away as well. We've got tanks on the border, mobile artillery on the border, Humvees on the border, armored personnel carriers on the border, lots of troops on the border. Okay? They're not doing any incursions into Israel. Okay? They don't have an air force. They don't have any navy to speak of. They don't have nothing. They got a bunch of missiles. That's it. And the vast, vast, vast majority of these missiles are crappy, junky missiles that probably have a max of 12 miles. Okay? They probably have a few good missiles. Okay? But you see, missiles that are good require sophisticated missile launchers. And once they start a sophisticated missile launch, we're going to get the GPS and blow it up. So if you have 1 million missiles and you got 100 missile launchers, it's not that big a threat. Now, these underground missile tunnels and compounds and whatever they claim to have, they released a video on it. I don't know if the video was a Hollywood production or if it was real. They lie all the time. They're bluffing us. They're always bluffing us. When it gets to the point where the rubber meets the road, they punk out. They're scared. Israel doesn't run around with a big mouth all the time. We deliver. Okay. They can't deliver, so they have a big mouth. Hamas tried it. Look what happened to them. Gaza's inhabitable, kids. You can't live in Gaza unless you want to sleep in a tent and rely on humanitarian aid for water and food and fuel. It's no life there. Up to 3,000 Hamas came in on October 7th in the massacre, followed by up to 6,000 citizens of Gaza. Now you know why the Israelis don't like the citizens of Gaza. They came in to steal, plunder, murder, rape. These are mentally ill people, the whole lot of them. All right. You can imagine how mentally ill they are now. So what's with this power going out in Lebanon? I never, in all my years here, heard Lebanon didn't pay the bill or ran out of fuel and the electric grid goes down. They could have got fuel from anybody or help from the World Bank, or 1 million people would have helped them get fuel to keep the power going. Is it real? I don't think so. Now, we got two theories for it not being real. One is that Hezbollah kidnapped the families of the people that run the electric company, or the government, or both, or threatened them without even kidnapping them. And they're scared, and Hezbollah said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Now, Hezbollah are not the brightest lights in the harbor or the sharpest pencil in the box. They're criminally insane, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to say you ran out of fuel and we're going to shut the electric grid off. And when we call you on the phone and tell you to throw the switch and turn it on, if you don't do it, your families are going to die. And they're trying to suck Israel into some kind of an invasion or something like that, and then throw the switch on. How long would it take the power to come up? I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, maybe a minute. I don't know. Probably not very long. And then launch at Israel with having the invasion as a justifiable cause. Iran may have told them something to this effect. I don't know. Do I think this is a likely possibility? Not that likely, but a possibility. Another possibility is Israel and Lebanon were talking, and Lebanon has been talking with them trying to save Lebanon. And they said, what if we just shut the electric grid off? And then you don't have to destroy our electric grid. And you go get Hezbollah, because we can't stand this business, what Hezbollah is doing to us. They're going to ruin our country so they can keep getting a paycheck from Iran. So Israel might have said, okay. Now, if they shut the power off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Israel attacked at 4:30, it would be rather obvious that it was a put-on job, and then Hezbollah would try to blow up and kill as many of the electric company and the government as they could. But if they said that the outage wouldn't be resolved until the fuel got here from Egypt, then Egypt might be in on this with them. On the 23rd, which is 5 days from now, 6 days from yesterday, and it may not come on time, but let's say it does. It might take them another half a day to offload the fuel and get it into the electric company. So maybe an extra day even. And Israel waits a couple of days and then finds something Hezbollah did, because they're attacking us every day, finds something they did that's unacceptable, and then went down on Hezbollah hard, dropped down on him very hard. It wouldn't look like the Lebanese government did it so much. And the Lebanese government probably wanted assurances from Israel that they don't stop the attack until Hezbollah is busted out beyond repair, so they don't suffer retaliation, which Israel, that would be the normal goal of Israel. Now, you have to understand that the Biden administration doesn't care what Israel does to Hezbollah. It's not Gaza. See, if Israel destroys Hamas in Gaza, Israel will move back into Gaza, and Israeli settlers will live there on settlements like the West Bank. It'll happen all over again. That's Bible prophecy being fulfilled, and America doesn't want to see that whatsoever, but it will happen. Now, we get to Hezbollah. They're not that worried about Israel killing Hezbollah, because, for number one, most of the citizens have moved out of the south of Lebanon, okay? And the Hezbollah is not the government of Lebanon. So when you kill Hezbollah, the regular government of Lebanon steps in and says, okay, now we're making a peace deal with Israel. Israel's going to help us with rebuilding, and, you know, there's not going to be any more fighting and all this stuff, right? We're going to make sure that there's no terrorists south of the Litani River, which is 17 or 18 miles from the border. See, why would Israel want to insist on the Litani River that Hezbollah stay behind there, which is only 17, 18 miles? Because the vast majority of the Hezbollah missile weapons are of the Katyusha type, and they stop at 12 miles. Okay, that's why. And there's no sniping. Anti-tank missiles are very short range. They generally are used under a mile. Artillery that they can muster up, I doubt would go that far. Mortars wouldn't. But he ended up. And then why would Iran give him paychecks? They wouldn't. They'd be out of work. So they're going to fight for everything. They don't want to go to work like a regular Lebanese citizen for chump change. They get more money for just being idiots for working for Iran. And the Lebanese government is infuriated about this because Iran supports Hezbollah in several ways, economically and with weapons, and puts the whole country of Lebanon at risk. Because what do they think Israel's going to do? Just lay down and saying, look, missile and rocket attack us, and when you're done, come in here and build ovens and shove us alive in the ovens. You know, that's not happening. They took a baby in Gaza when they came in October, and they put it alive in an oven and killed it. These are criminally insane people, these terrorists, these Muslim terrorists. They're not like other Muslims, they're nutbags, okay? So, is this power outage you're put on? Most likely. Is it a trap from Hezbollah? Probably not. If it was, I think the Lebanese government would leak it to Israel because they'd be fearful of retaliation for setting a trap for Israel. So is there a high probability between now and the 23rd of August that Israel does its devastating attack to Hezbollah? Yup. Is there a chance that Hezbollah takes over the electric company and finds a way to restore the power? I would say the chances of that are very slim or none. Probably none. Are the Hezbollah underground missiles run by conventional electricity or generators? Well, the real answer would be both. We go for a role model, we go back to Hamas in Gaza, and they had underground command centers, and they built them on the hospitals, and they used the power, the electric grid of the hospital to power it. They didn't use generators. So can Hezbollah be doing that? Well, if they have these big underground cities, you got to understand the generators that they use are going to be rather large. And what does that mean? It means they're going to make a lot of noise, and they're going to generate a tremendous amount of heat, which can be picked up by heat sensing devices, which America has no shortage of, neither does Israel. So these generators can very easily be taken out by aircraft. If they're close enough to Israel, they can be taken out by artillery as well. They could also be taken out by troops invading Lebanon. Quick course on precision-guided missiles. There's basically three ways to do these things. One is using an optical system to map the terrain and observe the terrain, and that's a very complicated, sophisticated device, and I seriously doubt Iran has any. The other way to do it is with lasers. Again, a very sophisticated device. I doubt Iran, as well as other countries, don't have any. The optical too, that's very, very not easy to do. Now comes radar for a precision-guided missile. The missile itself has a radar monitor type device, okay? And missiles are small. A big missile maybe is 25 feet, maybe it's 18 inches thick. Okay, what kind of radar are you going to put in there? Not much of anything, okay? Now, where are you going to get a power source for radar? Radars suck up power, electricity. So they use a big ground-based radar, if they have them, and Israel hasn't blown them up, which is a big, dome or a half dome. That might be, 25 or 40 feet in diameter. And it's so power draining, it has to be hooked right to an electrical grid. Or you could use it with a generator, but the generator would be the kind you carry around on a truck. Now, truck missile launchers have a radar. Sometimes it's on a separate truck that travels with the truck containing the missile, and you probably could put one on the same truck if it was big enough. Usually it's in a separate truck. And the motor of the truck drives the generator, which has to make a lot of electricity. Now, Israel has missiles called the Delilah. It's essentially a cruise missile. Other countries have them too. America has them, NATO has them. It's a cruise missile that finds the radar path of enemy radar. And it homes in, following the radar path, right down to the radar itself and hits it, blows it to smithereens. Now, you could have all the missiles you want. Without that radar, you got nothing. Precision-guided missile, the big radar that's at the launch site, maps the terrain. In other words, it's sending out radar signals to the area the missile's going to travel on or go through. And it paints that path on the surface with radar. And the radar type device in the missile reads the reflected radar. And it's a rather smart missile, and it can follow the path that way. But if the radar is not working at the home station where the missile is launched from, the missile is no longer a guided missile, it's a terrorist weapon. It just goes where it's going to go. They could use drones with GPS, and Israel has disabled its GPS for months now. You drive around Israel and you turn Waze on or Google Maps, and it tells you you're in Beirut, Lebanon. It's been this way in months. So if they try to use our GPS to direct weapons at us, a missile, a drone, whatever, and the GPS is they're gonna head it at Haifa, the GPS is gonna come back to them and say that that's Beirut, Lebanon. So they would think they're attacking Beirut, Lebanon. So, and their own GPS has been disabled by us, I'm sure. So there's not such a substantial risk of precision-guided missiles coming out of Hezbollah. In addition, we have the Iron Dome, the David Sling, and the Arrow missile, which can take them down. We got 3 levels. Our aircraft could take a missile down too. Now, if Hezbollah moves some of these missiles further north into Lebanon, and they have enough of a range, it increases our response time, substantially, because it has to cover that territory. So, bottom line is the threat from Hezbollah is a threat, but it's not that bad. Without electricity, I would say what is definitely disabled? Well, the airports in Lebanon are out. Don't they have generators? Well, you would think they do, but the airports are out. Airports need radar, quite a bit of radar. They need electricity. They're down. The piers and the ports are down. So you ain't flying weapons into Lebanon. The internet, I would say, would be down. The cell phone towers would be down. Hospitals either have electric generators or they're down. Most hospitals have generators. Maybe it doesn't give them full electricity, like they might not be able to run the AC, but they're telling the people in Lebanon to conserve water because they can't run the water pumps to put pressure in the water system. So I don't know how much of the Hezbollah has been put out of business from this electricity outage, but we can glean from this they're not going to be able to use the internet, their cell phones. Now, do they have radio networks with walkie-talkies and stuff like that they could use and charge them off generators or cars and truck chargers? Possibly, but I'm sure those things will be easily hacked by Israel. A regular walkie-talkie might have some encryption, but it's not going to have real serious encryption like the internet could have. See, you don't have to keep your enemy from knowing what you transmitted on the internet for a long period of time. If it's war plans, you just got to make the encryption bad enough so it takes them some hours to crack it. Their computers aren't going to be working in their command centers. Their capability is way the heck down. Now, they can try a ground invasion against our tanks and troops with our air support and artillery support and mortar support and die and hope to go to paradise and claim their virgins. There's nobody going to stop them from doing that. They can even come on their motorcycles and come with paragliders and die. That's all that's going to happen. They're going to die. I want to tell you something about gun control. There's a place in my general area called the Swiss Forest. I've been in there a few times to look at the agriculture. It's kind of open land. Some people from Switzerland that like Israel built kind of a little, very minimal resort up there. Maybe there's picnic tables, which there are. And I think they got some houses they could live in, or mobile homes or yurts and stuff up there. I'm not entirely sure. I think there's some guest houses there that some Swiss people run. And my wife's been in there many times. I've been in there a few times. It's not that exciting to me to go there. It's an elevation overlooking the Sea of Galilee. It's a scenic place. A Jewish man yesterday was there, and 3 Muslim Palestinians attacked him and tried to choke him to death. He got out of it. He's okay. This was not in the newspapers. This was reported to us by our local village militia, because it's in our general region, so we were cautioned about going there. And this is why you see the settlers attacking the Palestinian Muslim homes and cars in the West Bank and burning them. This is the mindset of these people. Okay? Kill us. All right? And this again is Netanyahu is the worst leader Israel ever had in many centuries, ever in the history of Israel, going back as far back as you want to go. He's worse than King Saul. He really is. He's the worst we ever had. Okay? And he did the gun control. a good president of Israel would take Israel's surplus military rifles. Israel never sells or destroys these things. They must have 1 million of them or more, and hand them out to the people for free with, 80 or 100 rounds of ammo. Look at the risk we're under. And this horrible individual called Netanyahu wants to keep us. He fights avidly to stop the Israeli public from buying guns. Do you understand what a piece of garbage this thing is called Netanyahu? Okay, it's a piece of garbage. Now, if we got rid of him, we vote him out of office or something, you think the next one's going to be any good, any better? I guarantee you. Different, but not better. They're all the same. Satan's the God of this age. The leaders of every country serve him. Every country. But there's a rift. The beast and the whore are at odds. And that's the rift you see. Okay? And it's going to result in the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. So yeah, people in Israel have guns. Right now, if you live or work in the troubled areas like the West Bank and places like that, they let you get a gun, but it's a very long, drawn-out, burdensome experience, and they make sure the guns and the ammo are very expensive. They only let you have 2 boxes of ammo, 100 rounds. When you go to the range, you can shoot all the ammo you want, but it's quite expensive. But you can only keep 100 rounds in your house, which is not the end of the world. So people that were under the old rules, where you could only have 50 rounds, 1 box, went to try to buy the second box now, and they said, oh, no, it doesn't pertain to you. It only pertains to people that bought a gun after the 100-round rule was brought into effect. You see how much of a piece of garbage Netanyahu is? The worst, the most despicable excuse for a human being you could imagine. He is a man. I wouldn't even say he's a man. Let's say he's an individual after Satan's own heart. This is the piece of garbage. And the people brought him in. Over 20 years he's been the prime minister. They keep voting this idiot in, who works against them. It's unbelievable. He's part of the punishment on Israel in Hosea 6:1 and 2. We've been turned over to our enemies for that Hosea 6:1 and 2, 2,000 years. And he is one of them. He might be for his government of Israel, but he's not for the people. No. Now our economy is getting bad. Over 10 years, the price of food and groceries in Israel has gone up 250 to 300%. But I know your food in America and Europe is expensive too. But we have a tax on our cars of 100 to 150% per car. So you got to understand how impossible it is to live here. I've been living here many years because of the ministry that says in the Bible, he accepts you in Israel. Well, I start telling you things about that, you're going to reject me, but that's what the Bible says. Read Ezekiel chapter 20, starting in verse 33 to the end, and you'll see it right there. So you want to shoot the messenger for reading you the scriptures according to the scriptures, go ahead, but you're rejecting the scriptures. So there's an open window to wipe out Hezbollah now because I know a lot of their missiles have to be not functioning with the power grid out. I don't think every single launcher they have is running on a generator. I don't think so. And you need a lot of fuel to run the generator 24/7 and stuff like that. You know, maybe, but I don't think so. And I don't think Lebanon in these days just happened to not be able to buy fuel and have an outage for about a week. Do you? Do you think that's likely? I don't. I haven't heard Iran threaten Israel by saying if you attack Lebanon when the power is out or attack Hezbollah, we'll missile attack you. I haven't heard anything like that coming out of Iran. Iran's too scared right now. What Israel's latest was, they said if they do a big missile attack on us, Israel will destroy the natural gas and oil facilities of Iran. Okay? What would that do? Well, that would be the end of any financial help going to the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Syria and Iraq, and the Iran-backed militias there. It would all stop. Iran would be headed to the poorhouse. Would a lot of civilians die in Iran from an attack like this? Heck no, it would be very slight. Can Israel do it? Yes. We went in and attacked 2 of their military bases after their large missile attack, and we took out the radar on 5 of their nuclear facilities. Would the nuclear facilities likely be attacked again and destroyed? Maybe. You need heavy bunker buster bombs to do that. America could do it. I don't think Israel has enough big bunker bombs and the capability to transport them to Iran. I think America would have to do that. Is the radar rebuilt and restored? Maybe Russia gave them more radar, but it wouldn't be good radar. Gave them S-400s, which stealth jets can defeat. Child's play for the F-22 Raptors that are here in the theater. I believe there's 12 F-22s. There's also B-1 and B-2 bombers. There's all sorts of stuff here from America that Russia nor Iran, probably nor China, can take out of the sky at all. So you got the BRICS, which Iran is driving, trying to go away from the American dollar. You got Iran with the backing of Russia and China to some extent trying to bring all the oil producing countries in the Middle East under their control, and then just tell them to raise prices and cut production back and double and triple the price of gasoline at the pump in Europe, North America, South America, and the economies would collapse. And the BRICS things would collapse the economy too. America just prints money out of thin air, all they need, and buy weapons and build aircraft carriers and planes and all of that. And everybody keeps accepting their dollar because America keeps punishing those that don't. Now this BRICS thing emerges. Yes, they will go to war over that. If they don't, they'll be destroyed. If they don't take out Iran, they're going to break the back of America and, you know, most of the West and Europe, NATO and so forth, with rising oil prices. Even Biden's not that dumb. He knows this. Kamala knows this too. It's not rocket science. They understand this. So there has to be a destruction of Iran. And since Russia is occupied right now heavily with Ukraine, and probably will be for, you know, at least a few weeks, they can take down Iran without thinking too much about Russia physically coming in to help them. The other thing is Iran has given drones to Russia, a huge amount, and now we understand they gave them short-range missiles. So Iran is helping Russia stay in the war against Ukraine, which means NATO countries, including America, have to keep pushing billions of dollars of weapons for free into Ukraine. The more Iran helps Russia, the more billions of dollars of weapons they got to give to Ukraine to try to prop Ukraine up so it could survive and hurt Russia. Russia's making attempts to drive Ukraine out of the territory they have occupied in Russia. So far, they have not driven them out, but I believe they've caused a lot of damage to the Ukrainian forces there. I believe the total of the F-16s that Ukraine has now with pilots is 6. Now, the plan is to give them 79. So if they could get another 15 or 20 F-16s in there with trained pilots, it would be very difficult for Russia. So Russia has a time frame, they got to go fast. Look, Iran is scared and Putin is scared. And obviously China is scared, or they would have just walked into Taiwan, wouldn't they? And North Korea is scared, or they would have just walked into South Korea, right? So let's not kid ourselves. Are you going to give me a good reason why they're waiting without using fear? You can't. They're scared. America is a formidable power. And when you add NATO into it, it's a super duper formidable power. China has no NATO. What do they got? They got North Korea, a lunatic over there running around with a starving bunch of people. Okay? That's not NATO. Russia's doesn't have anything like NATO, nor does Iran. What do they got? Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, that's nothing like NATO. If you add Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia together, you got a big problem. But what they did was brilliant. And I'm going to read it to you as a prophecy from Jeremiah 50, verse 24. Now, I can't give you a written guarantee that what I'm reading you is the total extent of the snare, but I would say it is highly likely part of the snare. Jeremiah 50:24, speaking of the daughter of Babylon, America. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babel, or it says in English Babylon, and thou wast not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Jehovah. And they have, and they've hurt Israel. You know, if we didn't have to give, at the insistence of America, the humanitarian aid to Gaza, and the war started early October, it would have been over by January 1st. We would have cut their electricity, cut their water. No food going in, no fuel going in. It probably wouldn't have even gone into mid-November. Biden made this happen. He doesn't want Israel to win and fulfill prophecy and take the land back. Now, we'll cover the ceasefire, and I'm starting to give you a completely comprehensive look at what's really going on, which you're not getting in the media. And these people that try hard and work hard to give you the news about Israel don't understand Bible prophecy, and they're all deceived with this is Gog and Magog coming. It's not. Israel is not living in peace without bars and walls, as Ezekiel 38 says. We don't have great wealth and riches, much cattle, silver, and gold. This is not the Israel today. It's the Israel many years down the road. This isn't going to change because some guy's going to come and speak peace to Israel. Look, the Israelites don't make a covenant with some foreigner. You know, it's the whole thing is so misinterpreted. The time frame is projected way out of when it's really going to happen, which is quite a bit down the road. It's the great falling away. How can Israel fall away when they're not even in place yet? Okay? It's a joke. They don't know what they're talking about. So, but these people work very hard, but they don't live here. They don't really understand it. They're getting it from other people. Okay? That's it. They don't quite understand it, some more than others. And these people are not sitting there feeding you fake news on purpose. They're feeding you the other gospel because they don't know any better. But they're well intended, and most of them are pro-Israel. But they're not, they're not doing it on purpose. They just don't get the whole thing. Okay? They don't get it. They don't understand that you could have a Muslim worker work for you for 18 years, and one day he'll just pick up a hatchet and hit you in the back of the head. They don't live here. They don't know what it's like having terrorists all over the place. They don't know what it's like. 13-year-old kids stabbing people with a knife for no reason. They don't remember the days when the buses were blown up full of Israelis. They don't know. They don't know what it's like to live here with missile attacks and have a bomb shelter. They don't know what it's like to be surrounded by people that want to throw you alive in ovens, burn you alive. They burned people alive in Gaza on October 7th. They don't understand this. It's abstract to them. They read about it. These are not rotten, mean, evil people trying to deceive you with fake news. They just don't understand it. Okay? They don't live through it. Now, it's very difficult for them, to try to get it. They're not going to get it. They don't get it, The ceasefire, Biden rewrote, the ceasefire is a joke. They went up to Qatar, they had a meeting, some countries showed up, Israel, I think UK, America, I don't know who else, Egypt and Qatar. Hezbollah didn't show up, Hamas didn't show up, the Houthis didn't show up, the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria didn't show up, and Iran didn't show up. What kind of crazy peace talks is this? It's nonsense. Biden revises the peace treaty again the other day because that thing supposedly failed. And he wants to save Hamas in Gaza. I'm telling you the truth. Biden all the way is trying to protect and preserve Hamas in Gaza. No doubt about it. That is a I hate Israel statement. Okay? Period. He wants Israel to withdraw all their troops out of Gaza. Hamas does not want to give us a single hostage back before then. They will not tell us how many hostages they have before then, nor give us the names, nor the medical conditions, nor proof of life, or nothing. How do we know that there are any hostages alive in Gaza? We don't. You got issue with that? Explain it to me. I don't know how. Okay? Or are there maybe 3 or 4 hostages left alive? Or 11? There's supposed to be 30-something, 34, 33. They won't admit to a single hostage. So what happens? We withdraw our troops out of Gaza, right? And they're supposed to give us the hostages. And they say, we're sorry, we can't locate any of the hostages. Too much water under the bridge. We don't know where they are. Do you think Israel's just going to say, okay, assemble 100,000 troops and go right back into Gaza? Biden won't let them do that. Once Israel goes out of Gaza, they ain't coming back. The Israeli people know that. Okay? All right, you got that one down. Next, the Philadelphia corridor. Numerous, dozens, when I say numerous, dozens of tunnels went into Egypt the size that trucks could go through. And they were open in Egypt. They didn't come out in a garage or something like that. They're right out in the open. The Egyptian people hate Israel. The government of Egypt hates Israel. And their role in this thing was to allow the weapons smuggling, the concrete smuggling, everything into Gaza for many years without stopping it. Netanyahu, the worst leader Israel ever had throughout history, since there ever was in Israel, uses Egypt to help negotiate with Hamas. The people of Israel are putting up with this. Do you know how revolting it is to us to have insight? Could you imagine? This is the reality of things that these other people don't understand, and they don't tell you. They just don't know it. It's not that they want to screw your head up and deceive you with the news. That's not what they're trying to do at all. They don't understand. Okay? They don't understand Netanyahu and the gun control. Years ago, before Schmuck and Netanyahu was in office, you saw soldiers all over the place carrying weapons, all over the place. You went into the bank. There was 4, 5, 6 soldiers on lines in the bank with assault weapons in uniform. Who the heck's going to come in and rob the bank? There was always at least one soldier in the bank. They were on all the buses with their assault weapons. Who the heck's going to attack a bus? Women soldiers had to go in groups of 3 throughout Israel, and 1 had to have a weapon minimum. If they all wanted to carry a weapon, no problem. Back in those days, they had full auto Uzis with 2 40-round clips. They gave to the soldiers, sometimes the women. Soldiers would have M16s, or they had this rifle called the Galilee back then, which they don't use anymore. Okay? There were guns all over the place. No more, Netanyahu. That piece of garbage. I don't have words for this bum. Okay? He's got the blood of many Israelis on him with his rotten, stinking gun control, amongst many other things. There's, you hear all these fights in the West Bank, gunfights with the Israeli soldiers all the time. Well, they got the weapons under Netanyahu's regime. The worst leader Israel ever had, worse than King Saul, and they keep voting him into office. It's unbelievable. 3 criminal cases active over his head. And he keeps telling them, I can't defend myself, we got the war. Major officers, colonels, majors in the military are saying Netanyahu's dragging out the war. I think now he's not dragging out the war. And these military officers publicly told Netanyahu that they would not leave Gaza, and if he commanded them to leave over some cockamamie moron peace treaty, they were going to stay there and finish the war themselves and show Netanyahu how to fight a war. Yeah. See, the people that don't live here don't know these things. They don't understand. It's not that they're not trying, they just don't get it. Okay? They ran a story, 70 Israeli soldiers got massacred on the beach in Yemen by the Houthis. We heard nothing about that in Israel. 70 soldiers in Israel get killed, the families are going to figure it out, and it's going to be all over the place. It never happened. It was some fake news, and they don't know any better. They carried it. I know it wasn't true. I would have heard about it in Israel. Netanyahu does all these targeted assassinations. Everybody thinks it's such a great idea. What good ever came of this? Nothing. Not a darn thing. What ever came of it? How did it ever help Israel? I can't find a single way it ever really helped Israel. They just put another schmuck right in its place. What do you think? These are great military strategists or something like that? These are crazy terrorists. You think they went to a war college for a few years? You think they went to university? These are schleps, street schmucks, fanatics. They're not bright people. What do you think you're dealing with here? Or the target assassination, what good is this? What is it doing? Nothing. Is it making things worse? Yes. Is he trying to make things worse? Well, you tell me. Doesn't accomplish anything tactically. It really doesn't. It hurts morale, yeah. With Gaza, what he used to do, Netanyahu, when they would launch all these missiles at us, he would tell the people that were in a given building, he would give them 5 minutes notice. It was called knock knock. They would drop an empty bomb canister on the roof. They would hear it, see it. They knew they had 5 minutes to get out. Sometimes they called them on the telephone. They got out of the building and then Netanyahu destroyed an empty building. You tell me how the heck you're going to run a war with it by destroying empty buildings. And Netanyahu kept getting voted into office by the people. What's wrong with these people? They like the corruption his administration brings, in my opinion, unless I'm wrong. That's what I think it was. I think he's a curse on Israel. He wanted us to give back Gaza back when we did it. He was pro giving it back. Do you think that piece of garbage wouldn't let Israel give the West Bank back if he thought he could sell it to the people? In my opinion, he would. Israeli settlers in the West Bank were burning the houses and cars of the Palestinian Muslims living there the other day right in front of the IDF soldiers, and they did nothing about it. You think the IDF is not close to telling Netanyahu to go fly a kite with his whole stinking administration? Ben Gvir and Smotrich, the right-wing party, would be totally interested in getting rid of Netanyahu, and they would prosecute the war to the fullest maximum you could imagine. And that would cause all the nations to rise up against Israel. Does that sound like Zechariah 12? Maybe a little bit? I don't know. It could happen. The ultra-Orthodox, the Supreme Court made them go into the draft. So they sent out 900 draft notices, and I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 people showed up. Will Netanyahu do anything about the people that didn't show up? No, he hasn't done anything yet. He probably told them, don't leave my coalition, I won't do anything. You don't want to show up for the draft? Don't. Nothing will happen. It'll take 3 months for the Supreme Court to figure out they got to do something else about it. Netanyahu's starting with the judicial reform again to get out going to jail. It's unbelievable. And when you read in Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9, 2/3 of Israel gets destroyed, and the 1/3 goes, he raises up. Yeah, I can understand. People like corruption here, taking advantage of the other Israelis, which are the greater things of the law. So the ceasefire has not much chance of going anywhere. What Hamas is going to do is, if they do have any hostages, whatever number of hostages they have, once Israel is out of Gaza, they're going to say, give us 5,000 terrorists in your jails, and we'll give you the hostages, which might be 3 or 12 or 30. They're going to want all of them out of jail. And then they're going to go back to Gaza, join Hamas, and get ready to keep attacking us again. Hamas said they're going to do October 7th again. They said it not once, many times. Hezbollah is saying the same thing. They want to conduct on October 7th. How did October 7th happen? All our guards were down. You think that just happened? Many countries are saying that Israel knew about this planned attack. There was an article in the paper today that they knew back in the top military knew in 2022, but didn't tell the mainline military about it. This is part of Israel's punishment, this idiot. Okay, let me check the chat for questions. Let me reiterate, Iran is very scared right now about attacking Israel, or they would have. Very, very scared. Hezbollah is scared too, or they would have done a big attack on us. Hamas behaved towards us without fear, and look what happened to them. We're told now that they didn't lose 15,000 Hamas members. It's more like 30,000, and they were afraid to reveal it because of the families of the dead ones may turn against them. It's a joke. I mean, these guys are mentally ill. They've lost. They're waiting for a rescue that's never going to come. Iran is scared because they know they're going to get devastated if they attack Israel. See, you have to put yourself in the minds of the head of Hezbollah or the head of Iran, okay? You got to think like them. Okay, let's do Iran. Okay, I attack Israel with all kinds of drones and missiles. The Sunni Muslim states will take them down. They said they would. They did in the past. The American warships will take them down. And Israel will then take down anything that comes in. So the amount of damage I'm going to do to Israel with my rockets and missiles, which aren't that good, but I overstate it to scare everybody, aren't going to cause a lot of damage. And Israel has illustrated in their retaliation attack that they could fly freely with their stealth jets into Iran and blow up whatever they want. They took out 2 military bases and took out the radar at 5 of our nuclear sites to give us a warning. So Iran is sitting there saying, now they're telling us they're going to blow up our oil piers where we load the oil and the natural gas onto the ships, and our refineries, maybe our oil wells, and destroy our economy. Could they do that? Yes. Does Iran know we can do that? Yes. What could it look like? Would it be Israel sending like 12 or 13 F-35s in and they do an attack and then come back and that's it? No. It wouldn't look like that. It would look like 12 or 13 or so F-35s would go in and take out whatever radar they have there, opening up various corridors or radar-free paths to the oil refineries, the oil wells, the piers, the ports that they use to load the oil onto ships. Okay? And they wouldn't come in just once. It would take them weeks to fix the radar. They would be coming in 2 or 3 times a day with F-15s, aerial refueling, hitting all sorts of targets in Iran. They wouldn't quit with the oil refineries, okay? And the ports and the piers. No, they would hit the missile bases, the weapons factories, airports, any tactical, strategic military target. It would go on for days. Iran would be busted out. They get around sanctions, but how are they going to get around not having natural gas pipelines, not having oil pipelines, not having refineries? Those refineries will be burning for weeks. Not having, and the oil wells, and not having ports and piers to not only offload natural gas and oil, but other products. They do grow pistachio nuts. Okay? That's what'll happen. And they know they can't stop that. Houthis could do precious little of anything to Israel. Hamas could do next to nothing. Hezbollah is not as great of a force as you think. And they're putting their crap aircraft into Syria. They really are. They got junk airplanes. They think they're going to put them into Syria and fly against our ground-to-air defense systems, which nobody knows how good they are, because we've never had aircraft attack us from these schmuck countries. They don't have any. Our pilots against Iranian pilots? You gotta be kidding me. It's gonna be a slaughter. If the planes ever get off the ground, which I doubt they will. What do they want? They want to invade Israel through Syria, put us in the ovens, rape the women, kill the family members in front of the family, kill the children in front of the mother, kill the mother in front of the children. All the things that they love to do with their religion and peace. Okay? That's what they want to do. Does that sound like Satan, or what do you think that sounds like? Okay. What good does it do when you see pictures of church people standing somewhere with an Israeli flag saying we stand with Israel? Do you think that helps us when the rockets and missiles are coming in? Do you? I don't. Talk's cheap, kids. How do they help us? How do they stand with us? What do they do? See what I'm saying? You know, remember the teachings of Yeshua, if you see somebody without clothes or without food, without water, and you walk by and you say, I'll pray for you, that doesn't cut it. You got to give them food, give them water, give them shelter, that type of thing, okay? That's what works. What do these church people do? They pray for us. What did the Pope say yesterday? It's Sunday in Israel. Yesterday, what did the Pope say? Israel's attack on Gaza is terrorism. The Pope said that. That's 1 billion people that say they're Christians. The Pope said that. Have you ever seen one denomination, stand up for Israel? Say, we stand with Israel. I haven't seen a single one. Not one. Do you think Israel's going to be nuked and glow in the dark for 30 or 40 years and prophecy's going to reverse? And that's how many people that go to church, go to these Sunday churches, believe that's going to happen? Tons. It's a joke. Do the churches teach the day of vengeance, the year of recompenses, and the year of redemption? I haven't seen a single guy or woman on the internet teach that yet. What am I talking about? I'll read it to you. It's very fast. Isaiah 34:8. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, guys, but we got to help the people that are here for the first time. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. The word controversy is twisted. It means the strife or the fighting over Zion. So because of that, there's a day of vengeance and a year of recompenses, which means payback. Could that include the government of Israel for the evil they have done? Yes. Yes, it can. Do I think that is going to be the case? Yes. Read Ezekiel 34, and it explains it rather graphically. Read Zechariah 13, verses 8 and 9, and you have it rather graphically there. Okay. Now, I'm not going to cram down your throat why the church never teaches this, but I'm going to read you Isaiah 63, verse 4, I believe. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. So now we see the day of vengeance associated not just with the year of recompenses, but also with the year of redemption for Israel. Did the churches ever talk about that? No. Rather than me shove it down your throat, ask yourself why. Let's go to Isaiah 61. Start at the top. The Spirit of Adonai Jehovah is upon me, because Jehovah hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek, had sent me to bind the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. Now, do you think that prison is like San Quentin and Attica, or do you think it's the pit that the dry bones are in before they get resurrected to life and come to Israel? Read Zechariah 9. I'm going to continue. Verse 2. To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. The acceptable year of the Lord, that is the year of, it's the favorable year of the Lord. Acceptable is not a great translation. Favorable, which is year of redemption, which is much like the Yovel or the Jubilee year, where every man is returned to his family and gets his inheritance back. The inheritance is the land of Israel that our fathers had, which we don't have all of it right now. And that's also associated with the day of vengeance, to comfort those that mourn, which is taken from Zechariah 12. So why doesn't the church teach you this? I don't want to jam it down your throat, because then you might think I'm a nut. You figure it out. And while you're figuring it out, let me show you the next big war in Israel that they're not teaching you about. And you should ask yourself about that. Why? Zechariah 12. The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, layeth the foundation of the earth, formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. I think this could mean the Jews get scared, and it could also mean the enemy that's laying siege round about Jerusalem. They are going to seize Judah and Jerusalem. A siege is not an invasion. It's just surround and attack. Well, are we seeing this already with Hezbollah and the missiles and rockets, Gaza with the missiles and rockets, to a limited extent Syria and Iraq with the missiles and rockets, Iran with the rockets, Houthis with the rockets? Yeah, but it's not in its fullness yet, I don't think. I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about. So he's really making Jerusalem a cup of trembling to those that surround it. Now that has to be the West Bank. The tip of my finger be Jerusalem. The other fingers are the West Bank. They wrap around Jerusalem on the north, the south, and the east. And there's a lot of trouble in the West Bank. Let's keep reading. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. Gee, they're not teaching you this, are they? In that day, gee, you think that just might maybe be the day of vengeance? What do you think? In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and I will smite every horse of the people with blindness. Gee, he opens his eyes on Judah, turns his face towards them, mercy towards them. Oh, Where's the Antichrist that's going to do the 7-year covenant here? Where's that? Why is that not here? Because Ezekiel 38:39 is the great falling away. You got to come in first. They're teaching you junk. Now listen to this. And the governors, the better word would be judges. The judges of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitant of Jerusalem shall be my strength. They twisted this. It's saying, the judges of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem's strength is in the Lord of hosts their God. So there's a revival in Jerusalem? Gee, why didn't they tell you that in the church? Verse 6, now this one ought to get you sick and tired of the church, if anything does. In that day will I make, that day, gee, do you think it might be the day of vengeance? In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, like a torch of fire in the sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall remain still in its own place, even in Jerusalem. So, Jerusalem's not invaded. In Gog and Magog it is. Here it's not. This has never happened yet. Who do you think these two people are? In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour. It means burn up all the people round about. Do you think that might be the two witnesses? Just maybe. You think? Gee, do you think? And why do your churches not teach you that? It's right here in your Bible. Judges in Israel are prophets. There's only 2 prophets left to come. The 2 witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John. That's it. Why don't they teach you this? They don't want you to know, obviously. Okay? Why is the judges thing here? Let's keep reading. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that, when you come out of the daughter of Babylon, it's going to say, those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. We're suffering here. If he frees you from any of this suffering, he's favoring you over Israel. So that's your explanation. It's not the greatest news for you all, but that's what it is. He's not favoring you over us. In that day shall Jehovah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. Feeble is the old feeble people. Gee, they like David, who killed Goliath, who was a great warrior, who killed a bear, who killed a lion. What's going on? Let's keep reading. And the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. That was the angel that God put his name in, Jehovah, found in Exodus 23, verse 20. Michael, that was with the children of Israel in the wilderness with Moses and Aaron. And he killed 150,000 in one day. Let's keep reading. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the heathen that come against Jerusalem. Oh, gee, you mean when this all happens and nobody took the mark yet to buy and sell? Oh, something's wrong with the church. Let's read verse 10. This will cork it. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplications. Gee, do you think now the people in Israel are saved? If he poured his spirit out on them, it has to be. Has to be. Let's keep reading. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. Do you think they maybe just perhaps look upon Yeshua? Because Yeshua appears in the clouds. This is not him returning to earth. The sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. Every eye shall see him, even them that pierced him. What am I reading you? You don't know what I'm reading you, right? Okay, let's read Revelation 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds, all tribes of Haaretz, be the land of Israel, shall wail before him. Even so, amen. Oh, gee, it's in Revelation. Why didn't I know that? Because the church didn't teach it to you. And what happens when they look upon him? First, he poured his Spirit out on them so they're believers. What happened when they look upon him? You want me to tell you? I'll tell you. And some of you aren't going to believe me, even though I'm reading it to you right out of your Bible. You're going to reject me, and you're really rejecting knowledge, and you're going to go back to the church teachings. But here you go. And this is the will of him that sent me. This is Jehovah's will. And you're going to go against Jehovah's will. Watch. That everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life. And I will raise him up at the last day. When they see him, they have everlasting life, which does not mean you can't die. It means your life is like the days of a tree. A child shall die at 100. You live a very, very long time, like before the flood, only longer. Okay? That's what this means. And that happens in the Zechariah 12 battle, the war, whatever you want to call it. It's really a siege. And they get everlasting life. Now, let's read 1 John 3:2. Beloved, now we are the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, not return to earth, we be like him, for we shall see him as he is. He appears in the clouds. You will see him like the lightning from the east to the west, and he's seated on the right hand of power, which is God the Father. Why? Because in Psalms 110:1 it says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Can you with a straight face tell me all Yeshua's enemies are like made his footstool today? Of course not. So he's still at the right hand of God. So Father God, Jehovah, comes down and appears in the clouds with him. And you that are believers in Yeshua HaMashiach, real believers, will see him wherever you are, and you will have this everlasting life also. And what does this everlasting life look like? And mind you, this could happen this week. Malachi 4, verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wicked shall be stubble. Now, doesn't that sound like Zechariah 12? It does to me. And the day, that's the day of vengeance, that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Those are our enemies. But unto you that fear my name, well, now the Israelites here had the Spirit poured out on them. They fear his name. They're mourning. Shall the Son of Righteousness, that's Shemesh, the Son of Righteousness, which is Yeshua, shall arise with healing in his wings. Well, you know, the wings means the extremities. That's where the tzitzit, the tassels were on the outer borders of the garment that the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years grabbed onto and got healed. The word for healing is marpe. It means health, it means a cure. Deliverance, it could mean cure, deliverance, healing, remedy. Okay, let's keep reading. Shall arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth. It really says you shall go forth and frolic as the calves of the stall. You're going to be young again, and you're going to not have any defects in your body, and you're going to jump around like a baby calf coming out of the stall. And that could happen this week. And the church doesn't teach you this. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. In the day, would that be the day of vengeance? That I shall do this, saith Jehovah of armies. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant. Gee, isn't that the same law that churches said is done away with? Oh yeah, it is. Which I commanded him in Horeb for all Israel. So if you're in Yeshua for real, and Yeshua calls you his brethren, and he's the king of Israel from the tribe of Judah, the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, and he's going to come reign in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. How can you be in Yeshua and not be in Israel? Good question, isn't it? You can't. That's why it says all Israel shall be saved. All Israel, it says, so you're in Israel in Horeb for all Israel with the statutes and the judgments. Behold, I will send you Eliah or Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. The great and dreadful day of the Lord is Gog and Magog. But we see Elijah and Apostle John, the two witnesses in Zechariah 12, burning up all the enemies round about because the fire comes out of their mouth and their prophets. Why don't they teach you this? Considering it could happen this week. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with the curse. Now, let's establish God running Israel with the judges again. Let's go to Isaiah 1 and verse maybe 24. Therefore saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, the mighty one of Israel. Gee, he didn't say the mighty one of the church. I will ease me of my adversaries and avenge me of my enemies. Avenge me? You think that's the year of recompenses, the day of vengeance? Just maybe, huh? And I will turn my hand upon thee. That's a good thing. And purely purge away the dross and take away all thy tin. Remember that, purge away the dross. And I will restore thy judges as at the first. Who were the judges at the first? Moses and Aaron. Were they both prophets also? Yes. And thy counselors as at the beginning. Those are the 70 counselors. That's coming back too. Who's going to be the judges and run Israel? The two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John. Or would you rather have a Netanyahu or a Putin or a Biden? Come on. Thou shalt be called, afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed. That's the year of redemption with judgment. So some will be judged. And her converts with righteousness. So let's go back to the take away, let's see, purge away the dross and take away all the tin. Okay? Let's see if we can understand that a little better. We'll go to Zechariah 13, which follows Zechariah 12, verse 8. And it shall come to pass in all the lands, saith Jehovah, 2 parts or 2/3 therein shall be cut off. The land of Israel is what it means. Shall be cut off, but the 1/3 shall be left therein. And I will bring the 1/3 through the fire and refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah is Elohim. Ah, how sweet it is. Any day now it could happen. The siege is at least partially in place against Israel. And why don't they teach you this? I don't want to tell you. I want you to think about it yourself so it sinks in for real. I could keep going and telling you more stuff that they don't teach you. I got the YouTube channel. Just go there in the live section, and there's tons of videos with Bible studies you could find. When you see that a lot of them start with the news, just fast forward through the news until you get to the Bible study. What's the point of listening to news from 6 months ago? Let me check the chat for questions or anything. I grew up in New York, yes, the Bronx. I'm reading out of a King James, not a 1611. It's hard for people to understand the 1611. Canada, I know where Canada is. Let me check my notes and see if I'm forgetting anything I wanted to cover. Earthquakes of a reasonably substantial size, in my mind, appear to be increasing in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't gotten documentation or an accounting on this, but it looks like it is. And that's a birth pain. So don't plan on a ceasefire coming about. The gap between Hamas and Israel is very, very large. And Biden will turn on somebody over this, and probably Hamas, which means he's going to turn on Iran. And I suppose I need to show you where Iran is destroyed in prophecy, right? I'll do that now. It's not going to take much time. We go to Jeremiah 49. And I don't know, about 31 maybe. Let's see. It talks about a lot of countries getting destroyed in Jeremiah 49, in the Middle East. But I've done this, I've covered it on several times. I'm just going to cover Elam with you right now. Now, Elam is a piece of a country back then that consisted of parts of Iran, Iraq, and Syria. So these parts are now in the country of Iraq and in the country of Syria, run by the governments of these countries as well as Iran. So you're not going to be able to destroy just a part of that, because the enemies of Elam do it. You're not going to be able to destroy just a part of that without the other part, participating. So it's basically, when it says Elam, it's, in my opinion, it's going to mean the destruction of Iraq, Syria, and Iran, not just pieces of it. Remember, Damascus shall be a ruinous heap and all that. Okay. The word of Jehovah came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, well, this is when the prophecy was given. It's not saying when the prophecy is going to come to pass. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. What is the chief of the might of Iran and Iraq and Syria? They're missiles. And the bow is the missile launchers. There it is. And upon Elam will I bring the 4 winds from the 4 quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So they're going to be busted up and have to go to a captivity all around the world. That's right in there. It never happened yet. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah, and I will send the sword after them, till I have consumed them. So the enemies are going to take down Iran, and Iran has, and Iraq and Syria, quite a lot of enemies. They're mad at Iran for what the Houthis are doing in the Red Sea. They're mad at Iran for many reasons. And you saw recently, like France and Germany say they would defend Israel and even attack Iran. I mean, Iran's going to get it. Iran is giving missiles to Sudan, which is on the Red Sea, to obviously shut down the Red Sea from Sudan. And Russia's building a base at Sudan for the Navy. How about that? And Iran is trying to recruit Algeria into closing the Straits of Gibraltar and stopping the flow of ships from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic. That's insane. If they let that happen, they'll bankrupt Europe. They'll bust Europe out. It's ridiculous already. And I will set my throne in Elam. That means judgment, the throne of judgment. It doesn't mean he's going to rule from these places. And will destroy from thence the king and the prince, saith the Lord. But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith Jehovah. Well, the Persian Empire is in Gog and Magog, and that's, if you want to know, it's probably going to happen around 60-something years down the road, based on the second 70 of Daniel 9:24, which does not say 70 weeks in any Hebrew translation ever. All of them say Shavim, 70. This the church is confusing you with, I believe, on purpose. It doesn't say weeks. It says 2 70s, which is they're both 70-year periods, the Babylonian captivity and the next 70, which begins when Israel's restored, and the falling away happens at the end. So when you have the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, and they receive everlasting life, that's Jeremiah 31, where God gives them a heart of flesh and puts the law in their inner parts. That's the same law the church is teaching is dead and done away with. Okay. So now you can ask yourself why you're not being taught all these very important scriptures that are prophetic that could come to pass any day now. It's up to you. God has set 2 paths before you: eternal life and eternal death in the lake of fire. And you can have either one. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the correct path, and few find it. It's up to you, whichever way you want to go. If you go with the true path, you'll be shunned by friends and family and neighbors and co-workers, I guarantee it. But any day now, you'll be very, very happy. So that's what I got for today. And please pray for me and my wife, Rivka, for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing. Pray for our finances, and pray for better videos. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I hope you got something out of this. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And gee, I went almost 3 hours. Wow, that's a long time. So if you want to get the updates when things start hitting the fan, subscribe, and I'd appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, which takes you 2 seconds. And I'm out. I'm going to go have some breakfast. I'm out. Thanks.